Okay guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're talking fat loss. Talking about fat loss more for personal trainers applying it to their clients. So fat loss is probably the most common goal that us as coaches and personal trainers are going to experience with majority of our clients. You know, everybody wants it, everybody's confused about it. You know, a lot of people hire personal trainers and coaches because they need that help to navigate through just all of the fluff and the misinformation that we have out there. So today we're going to be talking about how fat storage happens, because I think it's important to understand storage first, and then obviously, how fat loss occurs. And then just talking about what we can do as coaches to ensure that our clients are doing the best they can to get the fat loss outcomes that they want. So to understand fat loss, it's important to understand fat gain and fat storage. So how fat gain and fat storage happen is we have an oversupply of energy in the body. So when we have an oversupply of energy in the body and we cannot burn that energy, we then have a process where the body converts the energy into fat and it stores it in the adipocyte, which is the fat cell. And then if we continue to have an oversupply of energy, once that fat cell is full, we will then go through a process of replication of that cell. And then we'll have another area of storage so that we can fill that up again, going through the conversion process of energy to fat into the fat cell. And that can happen on a continuous basis until the energy demands start to drop and there's not an oversupply of energy. So then we got to think about, well, if that's how fat storage occurs in its most simplistic fashion, then fat loss is going to happen when we have an undersupply of energy in the diet. And there's going to be just signals from the body to go in and extract that body fat out of those fat cells, out of that adipocyte, going to convert them, get some transporters out there, take them and carry them to somewhere where they can use them and convert them into energy. And that process can happen over a period of time and we will start to see some fat loss. So, fat gain happens when there's an energy oversupply and fat loss happens when there's an energy undersupply. And then I guess if we talk about the terms of energy balance, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, we want a deficit of energy to create fat loss. And when we have weight gain and typically fat gain in some instances, that's when we have a positive energy balance. Now, as coaches, we're hired to provide our clients with the best opportunity to aid the fat loss process. And the first place in our main scope of practice is to provide activity and training programs for people to help them manage their energy expenditure and also preserve their lean body mass, because a large portion of these people probably still have an aesthetic venture. Even if they don't, it's still important to have strong bones and strong joints and a degree of muscle mass just to keep them healthy. Providing activity markers, through maybe some cardio or just workouts in the week, or even just getting them conscious of managing their steps, along with a training program, which is, I guess, for weight and fat loss purposes, a combination of resistance training and weight loss has been shown to be the best combination. But it depends on the goal of the client. If this person's really serious into their training, they do a lot of resistance training, then we might need to think about, well, the best program to maintain muscle is one that we use to build muscle. And then we can kind of manage the energy expenditure through activity and managing it through the diet. But at the end of the day, our main scope of practice is to provide a training program for somebody. It is a little bit goal dependent, but a combination of resistance training and cardio is usually best practice for most people. It's just about how much resistance training or how much cardio does this person want or need to do. And that's discretionary based off the coach and the client's commitments. Then we move on to the next area of practice, which is providing assistance through managing diet and food choices. So a lot of personal trainers aren't qualified to give out precise diet advice, but we can definitely encourage our clients to educate themselves on how fat loss occurs and best places for us to look to and best practices to use to manage the energy expenditure and energy intake equation, like the total flux of energy going in and out of the system, I guess is the best way to describe it. We get them more knowledge on how fat loss occurs. So it's just more, hey, you need to burn a little bit more energy than you intake through the diet. How we're going to do that is make sure that we have good serving of protein for every meal, for example, and make sure we look for foods in these particular areas, which are typically low in energy and high in nutrients. So we're putting this person in the best position to, over the day, manage their energy balance. We don't really have to go into the weeds too much on like macros and calories if we don't want to, but then the next step up from there is getting this person conscious of things like that. So it's like, hey, typically someone your size with your activity level would burn this much calories. With your goals and stuff, we may want to have a protein requirement or a protein allocation of about maybe 2.2 to 2.25 grams per kilo per body weight. So this would be this much. The rest of it, we can kind of sway upon our preferences in terms of fats and carbs. And then we just want to make sure that we have a 10% or 15% reduction in energy intake upon that level of maintenance. So we can look to these foods and stuff, and you can use whatever app management system or something like that, where this person can be a little bit more conscious of their food choices. But it's important that we make sure these people have the choice to pick a strategy that works with them right now. And you guys have multiple tools to help people work with nutrition. Most of the time, people know what to eat. It's about cleaning up the bad habits. So making people conscious of the things that can creep into the day, like drinking calories, snacking, things like that, where they're just not consciously aware that they're increasing the energy intake during the day, and then just getting them a little bit more conscious of energy expenditure and whatnot. And those things, those are the two major variables. And if we can get them on lock and just get people consciously thinking about why they eat, what they need to eat, how nutrition serves them. Enjoyment is still important, but when we've got goals and stuff, we still need to think about the lower hanging fruit that's going to get us the best outcomes. And, it's low energy, high nutrient based food mostly, and then we throw a little bit of enjoyment into their process with the foods that they like to eat, just in a small amount, just so we're not restricting them and they have still a positive experience in the dieting process altogether. Now, the next place that we move to, which a lot of coaches fall short on, is keeping clients accountable to the action points or non-negotiables for the week. It's important that we have this agreement between clients and coaches on the pass or fail goals that they need to achieve for the week. How can we look back on the week and go, these are the main things that I need to cover, just to simplify things? And it's more to create a little bit of ownership and know when things aren't working well, where we need to look to in order to move us in the right direction. So some non-negotiables might be protein serving with every meal. It might be, 10,000 steps a day. It might be 5 workouts for the week as well. It might be 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night and 2 to 3 liters of water. So if that person knows, right, well, this is the lowest hanging fruit. These are the things that I need to tick off as a mandatory thing from week to week. I'm going to set my week up and all my habits around making this happen. Simplifies the process for them, allows you to put some ownership on them, and it also allows for troubleshooting and stuff when things aren't really working well. It's like, where do we need to move next? Do we need to make a change, or is it that we're not really meeting the non-negotiables at the moment and we need to find some strategies in order to get that person back into ticking those boxes first before we start getting really funky and cool and sciencey with like all these adjustments, which people tend to move to really quickly, when most of the time it's like consistency and adherence to the lower hanging fruit that needs to be knocked off first. Now, the last place that we're going to talk about today, which we've kind of already touched on already, is more about monitoring progress and troubleshooting obstacles. So monitoring progress is really important. How we monitor progress through fat loss is up to the personal trainer with the access that they have. Like, if it's in an online setting, it's really hard to manage body fat ratios specifically, but we can use things like progress pictures, girth measurements, trending body weight, those kind of things. And then we like to have some subjective feedback as well about how that client feels. And we put those things together and go, right, are we moving in the right direction? If we're not, let's troubleshoot this with the client. Are they ticking their non-negotiables off for the week? Yes. Okay. Well, now that we know that this person's ticking their non-negotiables off, now that we know that we have all the data necessary to make a really good logical decision, we now know what the next best move is. Or we have troubleshooted this many options and we've narrowed them down to a couple, and it's like, all right, you guys are going to make the best practice based off your intuition and knowledge. And it's like, cool, let's implement this, assess the situation, and just see the effectiveness. And that's not something that coaches do very often. And when we're getting hired for a job, when we're being hired for an outcome, we really need to be monitoring data and assessing the progress of that. And, it's about you having some form of system involved with your client and them getting buy-in into the process of like why those things are important so that you guys can make the best decision. And whenever obstacles occur or get some adaptation or something like that, which is going to happen, it's like you guys have the next best move already there, or you're assessing it on the spot and saying, this is what everything's saying to me. I'm going to make this decision, assess it, see its effectiveness. If it doesn't work, push it out, do something else. If it does, keep yourselves where you're at. Make sure you're reinforcing the good behaviors again with that strategy that you've currently implemented. So I think that's a really good place to leave it for this video. Like, obviously fat loss is a lot more complicated than that. You guys can make it as complicated or as simple as you guys would like it to be. We believe that simplifying the process increases the adherence and the likelihood of your clients knowing what to do and being able to apply it. But if you guys want to increase your knowledge on fat loss and applications and stuff, we have a ton of content on the podcast, so the STC Fit Learning podcast, on Instagram at STCFit_learning, and there'll be more in-depth videos coming out in the future on YouTube and stuff. So if you guys are liking these videos, please subscribe with notifications on for future videos coming out. We do have some seminars coming out here and there as well, so make sure you guys are kind of actively following us on socials because they do pop up here and there. You can check them out on the website at events. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you all for the next one.